Hey, everybody. Going to give you guys a chance to catch up in here. Welcome to another edition of Shimano School. My name is JP DeRose, and I'm obviously here with my good buddy Alex Davis, who just got done qualifying for the MLF Big Five Championship, or is it Toyota Series? Which one, Alex?
The Big Five Championship. It's the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Tour. Just got back from St. Lawrence River last night and qualified for the championship. So actually, I was kind of getting stuff today because I'm going to leave next Wednesday to go to La Crosse for our championship.
Nice. All right. So, and for those of you who don't know, Alex Davis has been a guide on Lake Guntersville and lakes in the Alabama area for a number of years. So a little bit of fish out of water coming up to the St. Lawrence River, but laid the hammer down 22 pounds on day one and qualified. So good job for you, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, me and smallmouth usually don't mix just because, I like fishing for them. I know nothing about them. So it's a little intimidating, especially first time ever going to the St. Lawrence River. And anyone that knows anything about it, it's not small. It's not a very small place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. Obviously, let me know where you're in. Jorge, I see you there. Hope you're doing well. Jorge Guzman from our YouTube channel. So this is going live on our YouTube channel. This is going live on Facebook. This is kind of going to live here for eternity, probably, unless something happens to either platform. But so this is what I like people to do is kind of check in. Corpus Christi, Texas just checked in. Matthew, how you doing, bud? 10 Mile, Tennessee. Billy Ray, hope you're doing well. So let me know where you guys are checking in from. We usually have people from all over the world checking in on these things, which is kind of fun. And it's summer. People are fishing. I mean, this is a good time of year. I mean, it gets dark late. It still isn't dark here. I've got another hour of daylight here. How about down there, Alex? What time is it getting dark?
It's getting dark about 8:30. I would beg to differ that it's summer in New York where I come from. It was 51 degrees in the morning. I told someone at the store, I was like, y'all's summers and my summers are two different summers. Like, I like about 91 degrees. And up there, I was in bibs and hooded sweatshirts, and people was like, oh, it feels great this morning. I'm like, for February, it feels good. But, yeah, it's debatable.
Hey, look who's around.
Oh, it's Dan.
Hey, Dan. What's going on, buddy? Dan's on the YouTube channel. So we got Jim from Des Plaines, Illinois. Jason, how you doing, bud? Austin, Texas. Buffalo, New York. Mark Catman is checking in. Rhode Island. Bob. Tobin Lake Guide Service from Saskatchewan, Canada. So, I mean, Alex, unfortunately, you are really used to the heat, but that is what we live for up here is those cool mornings, cool evenings, and, getting up to that high 70s into the 80s during the day. I can live with that. It's the winters I can't live with up here, dude. That's what kills me.
Yeah, I would. I don't even want to know what your winters are like because your summer is like my winter. So
yeah, no, dude. Listen, you and I fished together on Guntersville. It was cold. It was like 31 or 32 degrees when I came down there to fish with you when we filmed that winter largemouth show. But your cold is a different kind of cold than we have because of the humidity. Yeah. I find every time I travel south, because you got so much humidity in the air, temperatures that I wouldn't balk at up here go right through me down in your area. Like, I mean, it cuts through my bones like a bandsaw. It's horrible. No, I don't know how you guys deal with that.
I tell people if you wear jeans and it's 30, it cuts right through your jeans, like instantly. Like it's like, oh wow, I need more layers quickly.
Yeah, see, and then there's guys like this. Pompano Beach snook off the beach and some rolling tarpon. Jason, I'm not going to call you what I want to call you, but I'm very jealous. I hope you're catching them, bud. That is awesome. So tonight, folks, we're going to be talking about technique-specific setups. So we're going to be talking all about gearing yourself up to really make the most out of any technique that you're doing, whether it is throwing a drop shot, which Alex was just doing, which he doesn't do all that often, or it was throwing a big, deep crankbait on ledges or a big swim bait on ledges. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. If you have a buddy who could learn something, if you got that one buddy who has that one rod that he tries to do everything with, tag him in the comment section. Like right down there, tag him down there. I think it's actually over that way. But tag him. He'll be able to see this. And if you have questions, like I said, if you're working on a technique and maybe you're not getting the results you want, you're not catching as many as you hoped, or you're hooking fish and losing them, it could be in your setup, whether it's the line, the gear ratio of the reel, or the length and power and action of the rod. This is what we have Alex for. So let's get things rolling here, Alex. Let's talk a little bit about your trip up north, because you really had to change pretty much everything in your boat that you normally would carry fishing down south, right?
Yeah, I actually I'm in my fishing room right now, and right over this way, I have a whole section just for it's just drop shot, Ned rig, spy baits, the fluff. Like, it's stuff that I guess is out of my comfort zone just because of where I live and how I fish. But I've actually became a lot more familiar. Like, I obviously I guide on Guntersville, and the cool thing is when they go deep on the ledges, that's one thing I've been doing lately is I drop shot and throw a Ned rig out there just because I want to learn, because I'm just not very I don't get to do it all the time. So I need to learn all I can. And you learn a lot when I figured out some rods are no good for it and some rods are really good for it. And that's just messing with it a lot. So it seems like the more versatile you can be, and also your rods and reels help you do that. I learned real quick. I used to think a spinning rod was a spinning rod. And wow, am I wrong? So being versatile and having the right equipment goes a long ways.
Absolutely. And again, saying a spinning rod is like a spinning rod is like saying every casting rod is the same. It's become that detail oriented, and that there's that many techniques. For me, I think the biggest game changer that made spinning more versatile has been braid. Braided line has made spinning rods be able to handle so much more than they ever could before, just because you could fish heavier line with a smaller diameter, which, spool anything above 10-pound test on a spinning reel in mono or fluoro, and it's an absolute freaking nightmare.
Yeah, no, I used to be that guy. I used 12 because that's what I thought. Oh yeah, I can get away with 12. And now I'm I use 8 and sometimes go to 6. I think, oh man, I saw Sturgeon Bay last year. They wanted 6-pound fluoro over 8-pound. Like that, to me, that's mind blowing. You got me into using really small Power Pro. I can't do what you do on the 5-pound. I cannot do that. But I used to throw 20. Then I moved to 10. Now I throw 8. And I love 8. 8-pound Power Pro version 2 Super Slick is the best spinning reel line, in my opinion, because I can go to ledges. That's what I used up at St. Lawrence last week. But braid makes life a lot easier, tremendously easier. And I think a lot of it, too, on rods, I was throwing an 842 Conquest. Spinning rod, but with braid, I don't ever set the hook on a drop shot. I would just work it through the boulders, and when you'd feel one on there, I just reel real fast, kind of lean and reel real fast. I mean, it drives. I was using a rebarb hook, and it drove it home every time. I mean, that combo to me is about the best combo I've seen, but a lot of it's because of braid, like you say.
So 842, that would be an MBR. Right?
Yes.
Is that an MBR bag? So that would be medium power. Is it fast or extra fast, that rod?
It's fast. So it's a 2 power. So it's a medium power, fast action. So it has a lot of backbone. If I catch big pike on a drop shot, which is mind blowing once again. I caught a 47-inch pike.
That's
so when
a big one.
When I figured out it was a pike, I was like, okay, I just started just reeling and pulling. And it was perfect, but it had a lot. It has a lot of give to it. I caught a 4 over 5-pound smallmouth, and smallmouth are obviously crazy. You know a lot more than I do. But when they see the boat, they have eyes that can see you standing there. Because when they see you, they go the other way. Zzz, zzz. And the rod had a lot of forgiveness in it, so I never pulled a hook out. A lot of that was the reel. I throw a twin power. That's something I got onto. That drag on that twin power is absolutely phenomenal. And that's something smallmouth fishing, you need to have a great drag. That's where Shimano reels, I think, on the spin reels, they kind of take the market as far as with their drags, because I had friends of mine who don't use them, and they was like, man, I had one take off at the boat and it snapped me off. He said, my drag actually locked up. And I said, yeah, you should try one of these. They don't do that.
Yeah, these don't do that. It's funny with the reels. Now, you said, you're using 8 and you like 10, and I'm a guy who believes firmly in 5. So what I've done, because 5 is so small, I actually go down to a 1,000 size reel. And the reason I do it is because it's only got 7 pounds of drag, where you're probably using a 2,500, which will kick out 20 pounds of drag. So having that little bit of heavier line is a bit of a buffer. I know if I have a 2,500 and I crank that drag down, I'll probably pop my leader off the 5-pound. So I just go to a 1,000, and the most I can give them is 7 pounds of drag, which kind of works out perfectly, right?
Yeah,
so
see,
again, it's about matching.
Yeah, I've always been a 2,500 guy, so I'm really comfortable with the size of my hand, and like I said, that's where I stop at 8, just because I kind of figured out what 8 can do at Guntersville on ledges for largemouths, and you can kind of horse them a little. So I know how strong 8 is, but that to me, that setup with that 842 Conquest is it's mind blowing how good it is.
Like I started using the 5-pound Power Pro a lot before I even talked to both Tom or John when he was at Power Pro, and they gave me all the specs on that stuff. It'll actually break at like 16 pounds, 5-pound. Like you can lay some lumber to 5-pound Power Pro. Like, I mean, dude, I've swung 4-pounders on it, right? And I run normally 90% of the time, I run a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on 5-pound braid. And I've never, when snagged, broken the braid. I always break the leader. So I know for a fact 5-pound is a lot tougher than people think they are. The rating, so it's weird because the ratings in North America are very different than the ratings in Japan. In Japan, they rate the braid based on its maximum breaking strength. In North America, they rate braid on its minimum breaking strength. So 99% of the time, that braid's going to break a lot heavier than 5-pound, but there's always the possibility it can break at 5, so they rate it at the lowest number. It's an interesting thing, but that's why the Japanese braids, the pound test seems lower and the braid seems thicker. It's because they're doing the opposite of what we're doing.
I got you.
So anyways, so we got a few people in. Lima, Peru, Ricardo, I hope you're doing well. I've got a couple questions here. Mike from Orlando, Florida. Hey, Bill Chambers, what's going on? Here's your first one. This is from Brandon over on YouTube. He's saying the 610 medium X Pride is known for being the best jerkbait rod. What other techniques would you use that for? And Alex is the right guy because Alex has field tested a lot of the X Pride and Zodius lineup. So, Alex, 610 medium X Pride.
To me, I use it also as a pop-R rod. The one thing about a pop-R is I use actually I really got into using the old Zell Pop about 10 years ago. I think Excalibur made it. It only weighs 1/4 of an ounce. So you can't have a rod that has a lot of not enough tip and a lot of backbone because you don't get any distance. You can't be accurate with it. So any kind of pop-R style baits, that's what I use the 610 medium X Pride. So that actual rod, I use it just solely for a jerkbait and a pop-R, a walking bait. I don't use it on like a walking as far as a spook. I just like it on the pop-R, the spook. I feel like I like a medium heavy because I will throw the original size, which is a little bit bigger, probably weighs 1/2 ounce, 5/8. But 610 medium X Pride is absolutely a phenomenal pop-R rod.
Awesome. All right. Let's go to another question here, Alex. Dustin Walker from our YouTube channel as well. So is the new 7.6 extra heavy Adrena flipping stick a reaction rod, or like is it a flipping rod or a reaction rod?
Okay, so with that, when you look at flipping sticks, you have to look at braid versus fluoro. A braid flipping stick is going to have to be more parabolic than your traditional fluoro flipping stick. To me, the 7.6 extra heavy, I would flip braid with it because it does have a softer action than a true flipping stick. So to me, I use it anything if I throw like a football head jig with it because I don't want a really stiff rod with a football head jig or a big worm. I'm not trying to whip out the lumber on them, and I flip braid with it. I would not flip fluoro with that rod. Because when I flip fluoro, I want just a broomstick with eyes. So I think you get away with that with flipping braid and also football head jigs, big 10-inch worms on like a quarter ounce weight or a 3/8 ounce weight. So that's what I would use that for.
Yeah, and again, Alex, you had a big part in that 7.7 X Pride rod that I absolutely love. It's a big swim bait rod when you guys originally put it together, but for me, it's one of the best milfoil flipping rods because of that soft tip and lots of backbone.
Yeah, swim baits, you want a lot of tip and you do want backbone, but you want it to be parabolic because you don't lose as many. When you have a really stiff rod, you lose a lot of fish. You tear holes in their mouth. Think about tearing holes in the mouth. That's when you go back to braid. You don't want to tear holes in their mouth. So a lot of rods you can do a lot of different things with, even though they're not advertised. But that's where having I don't want to say technique specific, but I have one rod that does one thing. So it might not be a technique specific rod, just like the 610, the X Pride. That rod does two things for me, and that's the only thing it does. But that's what I like. So I'm sure we'll get a lot more questions here, but I have certain rods I do things with certain techniques.
All right, guys. So we're getting questions in. I've got another 3 to lean on right away, but for all you joining us, welcome to another Shimano School. My name is JP DeRose. We're here with Alex Davis, MLF Big 5, professional angler, and one hell of a guide on Lake Guntersville and the surrounding areas in Alabama. If you haven't looked them up, Alex, where can they find you?
You can look at alexdavisfishing.com or my guide site, which is spinnerbaitkid.com. I'm no longer a kid, but I'm not changing my name now. So it's got my email, phone number, send me a text, call me, whatever. I don't try to hide from nobody.
Attaboy. All right. So here is a question. So here's one quickly. Jason Allen saying he wishes the Accents came in a 1000 series. I mean, I would just slip to the Vanford. If that's what you're into, Jason, the Vanford 1000, or even better, the Vanford 2000, which is the same size as the 1000, is one heck of a replacement. Yes, the Accents is a really nice reel. The magnesium body does help, but give the Vanford 1000 a shot. Or
if you really want to do something, I got a Stella 1000 that'll it really treats you. It'll spoil you, I should say.
Did the new Sustain was only 2,500 and up, right? New Sustain, yes. I think, was 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, your next best bet if you're looking for a 1,000, Vanford, and that's what I was using today actually. So yeah, really really nice reel. Okay, so this question I've been getting a lot. I did a walkthrough on the new Zodius. The new Corrado. There's a slip of the tongue. New Corrado rods that just got re-released at ICAST. Alex, you talked all about them at ICAST. You were actually in the Shimano booth. I missed you guys this year, but is the new Corrado rods the old Zodius blank? Let's talk about the similarities between them.
They are similar. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but a lot of it's they have EVA foam handles. They have high power X technology. So the foam handles make it look identical because obviously, it looks different. But what I will say, this is where you can bunk the whole myth if someone says, oh, they just take the old Zodius and put a Corrado on it. So I have the 7.2 medium heavy glass Corrado rod. I was testing it at the Potomac River. I instantly called Adam Deal and I said, that's the best chatterbait rod I've ever put in my hand. It is far superior than any rod I've ever thrown a chatterbait. We're talking Zodius, I'm talking X Pride, Poison Adrenal, whatever you want, it's better. You can look at the blanks for anyone that wants to say, oh, it's just the same rod. If you look at the blanks on the 7.2 medium heavy glass and the 7.2 medium heavy glass Zodius, the Corrado rod is actually bigger. Like it's bigger around. So there might be a resemblance to same, but that's mainly because it says high power X and it has a foam handle on it. But they're not just the old Zodius blanks. They do have a lot of we carried the same actions over, or wanted the same glass rods. We wanted a 7.2 medium heavy, 7.6. I believe there's also a 7.11. I can't. I'm offhanding for my cast. Everything's a blur right now. But took a lot of the actions that we still wanted, all the popular actions. But it's not the same rod.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're tweaked as well. They're slightly different in a lot of ways. Besides, the most obvious difference between the two is probably the guide train, right? They went to that Fazlite ring, which you can tell it's got this gray-blue look to it, and it's a Fuji tangle-free guide train. But handles, I would say the handles, the foregrip, and the EVA foam, and the fact that they're high power X make them look very much like the previous gen of Zodius. But I think all the actions are tweaked to hit more what guys like Alex were looking for when they were designing rods. And I think the better part is they're actually cheaper than the previous gen of Zodius. Even though they spec out.
And they have a 7.8 extra heavy for all you braid guys that want to punch mats. That was one thing that to me was lacking in the Zodius. They didn't have a true braid flipping punching rod. And now Corrado rod has a 7.8 extra heavy. When I saw extra heavy, I thought, oh, wow, because Zodius actually is a very stiff rod. It's a true to what I grew up with fishing as far as powers go. A heavy is a heavy, a medium heavy is a medium heavy. So when I saw extra heavy, I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be outrageously stiff. And I messed with it on doing a photo shoot, and I got to play with it. And I actually shouldn't probably say this, might get in trouble, but I text someone from the product team and said, hey, those prototype rods, I want those. So send them to me because there's none. I can't get my hands on any final ones. So I kind of need those rods because I'm going to lacrosse next week, and I probably do a lot of punching of grass.
Punching and frogging for sure.
But no, the Corrado rods, I'm really excited about them. I got to, like I said, I got the prototypes that I got to test, and they will be taking the trip to lacrosse with me. I absolutely love those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, Marshall. Hopefully that helps you. But yes, you're right, Marshall. I saw your comment below where you said they're very similar, but the reel seats are the same. That CI4 reel seat is a Shimano original deal. I mean, that product, the material CI4 Plus is carbon interfusion. That is a Shimano product. They've been using it on the bike side for well over a decade. They've been using it in the reel side, I mean, since the very first Stratic CI4 came out. And I believe the second gen of that reel, they came out with CI4 Plus. So it was a little stiffer, a little less flex in it. And the fact that they can make those reel seats out of them, you see them in Zodius, you see them in X Pride, you see them in the new Corrado rod, you see them on Conquest, you see them on NRX Plus. I mean, the CI4 Plus reel seat has become a staple of a lot of the higher end Shimano rods. So, and G Loomis rods now. So there you have it. All right, Alex, let's keep moving along here. Questions are coming in. So Jason Allen's asking again, speaking of 610 for poppers, do you like glass or graphite? I mean, we really, to this sense, don't have glass rods anymore. It's more the action of the rods that make them feel like glass. Would that be proper to say?
Yes, but no, I think like the Zodius glass rods, they're old school, thick. They're not 100% fiberglass.
Right. They're blends.
But they're blends, but they have definitely different actions, and they feel different, and they are heavier than your regular 7.2 medium heavy versus 7.2 medium heavy glass. I would not use glass for a popper. I stick to crankbaits, vibrating jigs, rattle traps for glass rods. To me, that's its only place, just because they have a lot of bend. The problem with that is if you're trying to work a popper or any kind of walking bait, twitching it, it's going to have too much forgiveness in there, so you're pretty much going to do absolutely nothing. You're not going to be able to have the action. You're not going to give the bait the action it needs with a glass rod versus a graphite rod. So I would say stick to the graphite on the poppers.
All right, there you go, Jason. Hopefully that helps you. Pup came by for a quick visit there. All right, let's keep going here. Again, folks, we are live with Alex Davis here. If you have questions, we're talking all about technique-specific stuff. So if you want to up your game a bit and maybe dial in your favorite technique, this is your chance. Put your question in the comment section. Tag a buddy who keeps using the wrong stuff as well, because I love doing that to my friends. Okay. So anyways, Dustin's saying he's all in on the technique-specific stuff, and that's the answer he was exactly looking for. So thank you, Alex. So this one here is a bit out of our range. Ron, I hope you're doing well. West Indies, Tobago. Speedmaster for slow pitch jigging is a little out of Alex's probably range.
That's Chinese right there. JP, this is all you, buddy.
Well, it's actually not even all me. I know a little bit about it, but slow pitch jigging, you could use Speedmaster because it's a 2-speed. You could use it for slow pitch jigging, but I believe the O'Shea jigger would be the one reel, Ron, that most of the guys now are using. Trinidad for jigging and O'Shea, or Oshia, depending how you want to say it. I keep getting confused between the two, but I'm sure our good buddy Dan Thorburn, who's on here, would know more because he is a bigger encyclopedia on gear than I will ever be. So, Dan, if you got a comment, I will let Ron know. So, Ron, hopefully Dan will tune in on that. Best rod. So, Jerry, how you doing, bud? Love it. Kids eating pasta, obviously, in that picture. Best rod for the Ned rig or tiny child rig? What is a tiny child rig, Alex?
I don't know what a tiny child rig is. Ned rig. So for me, I keep it about as simple could be. To me, the 842 Conquest is the best spinning reel I've ever put in my hand as far as lightweight, very sensitive. I don't lose fish on it, so I've just got so much confidence in the rod. I did use So that's the high-end rod, the highest of high-end rods that Shimano makes. I did actually get to test a new rod coming. I don't want to say what it is because it's not out yet, but they are going to have some very, very sweet actions. It's going to have a lot of the same action that I believe was in the Conquest, so it will be coming down the pipe. But I like a 7-foot medium. Some people will say 7.2, 7.3. I think you do get extra distance on a long cast. You get a better hook set. But with like the topic you brought up earlier with braid, I think I can get by with a lot of things with braid. I don't think that extra inch is going to kill me on casting or inch is going to kill me on setting the hook. A lot of times with rods, not just Shimano rods, I've looked at a lot of rods and put them next to each other. 7.1 to 7.3, a lot of it's just on the handle. You're actually not gaining any true rod length. So to me, a 7-foot rod is going to give you about the same amount of rod that you're using for as far as fishing. So 842 Conquest, I can't say enough about it. I'm in love. I have like 6 of them.
So Jerry, there's 2 trains of thoughts here, and Alex has found his medium power, fast action. That's, I think, if you're going to take anything from this, Alex is saying 7-foot medium power, fast action. That's kind of where he wants to be. I'm going to agree with him. I fished the new NRX Plus today for the first time, the 821 NRR, the Ned rig rod. And that is 6'10". Okay, 6'10", medium light. But it doesn't really feel like a medium light. But I would say I have fished X Pride, I have fished Zodius, I have fished IMX Pro, the new IMX Pro Ned rig rod. Anything in that 6'10" to 7'4", I would say, depending on your height. Or if you're looking for more casting distance, go with a longer rod. If you're looking for more accuracy, sometimes a shorter rod is better. But medium power, fast action.
Yeah.
I think, Jerry, that'll be the best advice we can give you on picking a Ned rig rod. Because
a lot of it has to do with like your height. As a person, I'm almost 6'2". So a 7-foot rod doesn't seem really big to me. A guy that was, my dad's shorter than I am, like 5 or 6 inches shorter than I am, 6 inches shorter. So when he has if I give him a 7.2 rod, he even says, this thing's just too big for me. So a lot of it's just on the height of I mean, I have long arms. JP, you are a full grown man, anyone that's been next to you. So, you can handle a longer rod or bigger rod than what a lot of people can. So the main thing, like you said, a medium action, fast action rod, medium power, fast action is going to be like, I have some of the 822s and I like them for the vertical drop shot. Just put it over the trolling motor, drop the spool. You don't want a long rod for that because you're getting away, your bait's getting away from the trolling motor, so you can't see it as good. So a lot of the length of it is just kind of personal preference in my eyes. But main thing, medium action, fast power, straight across the board. Yeah. Tubes would be the one thing that I did learn from a guy that we went and he was throwing a 893, the GLX 893.
Wow, that's a big rod for a tube, dude. That's
for the cracking.
For cracking it.
It was his whole thing was he wanted to move the tube a lot. He wanted it to come off the bottom and move it. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about this. So I'm going to I tried using the 7-foot medium heavy or 7-foot medium power. And I figured out real quick that this is not enough rod for what I'm trying to accomplish. And he was putting on a clinic and made it look easy. I grabbed one of his 893 GLXs, started cracking the tube on a medium heavy, but we weren't using braid, straight fluoro.
So big difference because I crack a tube on an 892, which is the same rod, 7'5", except the one you guys were using was medium heavy, and I'm using a medium. And that's the difference between braid and fluoro. I think you have to go 1 power higher when you fish fluoro, and you can afford to go 1 power lower when you're fishing braid just to make up for that lack of stretch.
Yep. And his thing was he'd always thrown a medium heavy, and he'd always thrown fluoro. So he said when I put braid on, it was a train wreck. So, I learned to crack a tube with a medium heavy on 8-pound fluoro. That's just what I do now. That's the only time I ever use straight fluoro over braid versus fluoro. But as far as any kind of rod, not just a spinning rod, when you go braid, you can go a power less than what you would on a traditional fluoro rod. That's swimming a jig, throwing a frog, whatever you want. You can go a power less just because braid will – if you've ever thrown braid long enough and you set the hook, sometimes you'll get right there where it feels like something sprung in your elbow. That's what braid does.
Yes, especially with a 3-power. I'm sorry, but a medium heavy and braid is I don't own a single 3-power spinning rod because I fish so much braid.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't take the tennis elbow that comes with it. You really need to be medium or medium light when you're fishing braid, just so you're not cracking into your tendons and every muscle in your elbow and wrist, because it will hurt you.
No, braid's my best friend, but it's my body's worst enemy at times. So that's something I have learned.
Okay, so Ron, we got an update for you from our good buddy Dan Thorburn, who I figured we would. So Oshia jigger or Trinidad or a 2-speed will work for jigging. So you're on the right track. You can use the Speedmaster. It is a 2-speed, especially because you says you're going after bigger fish. So given you maybe have a larger species lurking around, typically rods are super soft. So that's the one thing about slow jig. For those of you who've never experienced anything of it, if you go back into the Shimano schools, I did one not too long ago with Captain Benny, and Benny is like the guy who started this slow jig thing. And go look it up because he gives a ton of great advice. It's a super soft rod, but you need a reel with loads of torque because it's not the rod that's fighting the fish. It's the reel. So there you have it, Ron. Hopefully that one helps you out. All right, so let's back it up here a bit. So here's another one from Dan. Someone asked about the Xsense 1000. Xsense, he is 100% right, which I never doubt, Dan, is a Japanese sea bass reel. That's where it originated. So that's why you see that the sizes are not 1,000. 2,500 to 5,000, I believe the size, or 2,500, 3,000, 4 and 5, Alex?
Yep.
For the Xsense. Mm-hmm. It is actually a saltwater reel. So that's why we're not seeing a 1,000 in that. All right. Let me go through these. Again, folks, you can put your questions up here. We got a load of them, which is great. We're going to try to get to everyone. Alex, we've already done 32 minutes, if you could believe that.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Everett from our YouTube channel. Everett, how you doing, bud? Can you speak about the new 610 Poison Adrena? Alex, how much is that similar to the X-Pride 610?
It's very similar. They are both, in my opinion, X-Pride and Poison Adrena are softer rods than looking at Corrado or Zodius. They're just a softer action. So those two rods are very, very similar. To me, it's just which family do you like better? If you're a Poison Adrena guy and you like that handle, you just like the carbon monocoque handle, the whole thing. And I think it has that the soft touch reel seat. If you like that, then stick with Poison Adrena. The one thing that I can tell people the most is if you like a rod series, just stick with the rod series. It's really hard to go from a Poison Adrena to an X-Pride. Just those handles are so different when you get the rod in your hand, even though the action and the blanks are very, very similar. They feel the same. When you put it in your hand with two different handles, it's hard to go back and forth and really be in tune with the rod. So if you like the 610 X-Pride, you will love the 610 Poison Adrena. And if you're just a Poison Adrena guy, that's a great rod. Pop-Rs, jerkbaits, it's phenomenal.
So how much of a difference, Alex, does having a Spiral X core blank in Poison Adrena versus a high power X blank in X-Pride?
It affects the rod in a good way. I feel like you can be more accurate with things because you're reducing your rod twist. So you get a stronger rod. You're going to be more accurate. You're not going to get the rod twist. If you ever seen a rod in slow-mo, it actually goes like it wobbles.
It'll on hook sets, it'll roll.
It takes out the death wobble, as I want to call it. So it's different technology, which gives it a different feel. It actually gives the rod a different feel in the hand. So that's why I say if you like one series, just stick with that series. If you're a Zodius guy, stick with Zodius. If you're an X-Pride guy, I stick with the same thing. I'm a Zodius guy. I love the way that rod feels, the actions of them. So the 610 Poison Adrena, I got to test it, and I threw a jerkbait on it because I got it in, I believe, December. So obviously I'm not throwing a Pop-R, but it was an awesome re-range rod, and I got to throw now I can speak about it. I got to throw the World Diver and the World Minnow on it, and it was really, really good for that. I mean, it's the perfect action. It has enough bow in the rod when you'd hook one. I took it for spots, and they're wiry anyways. They're about like a smallmouth. So when they'd hit it going the other way, I wouldn't lose them. So that rod was really, really nice for that. I don't think you'll go wrong with it if that's what you're looking for.
So, Alex, talk to me about, so now since Zodius got the last upgrade, it got that carbon monocoque handle, right? So
Yep.
Outside of the soft touch CI4 reel seat, how much more similar have the two? I know the blanks are totally different. I find, in my opinion, Spiral X to be a little faster on the recovery rate than just High Power X is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the feel of the rods, are they similar, both having that monocoque handle?
You're gonna feel as far as the sensitivity. You can actually feel in the rod. Now, I keep a butt of the rod. I keep it up underneath of me. It's always touching on my forearm. That's just how I hold a rod, and you can feel it through there. So that's something that kind of takes a little getting used to, because now all of a sudden you're having something that's sensitive in your arm, which is great. To me, those rods, Zodius is just a stiffer rod all around. So I can't compare Poison Adrena and Zodius. I believe the actions, the stiffness of the actions are so vast and different. But the feel of it in my hand, now Zodius is catching up with that handle to Poison Adrena over here. So it's creeping up on it as far as like its features and its sensitivity. That handle is, I hate to use the game changer word because it so gets thrown around, but that handle is a game changer as far as what Shimano rods go.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess for most people who are probably we're throwing terms and at you like Spiral X Core and High Power X, but basically the two are very, very different. Spiral X Core is an actual method of wrapping a rod blank versus traditional rod blanks, and then High Power X is an overlay. You make the rod like you normally do. High Power X sits on top of that rod, and it offers more durability, a little bit of torsion control over your rods, and it helps with ovalization. So think of High Power X as an add-on to make a rod more durable and perform better. Spiral X is like, it's what the new NRX Plus is made out of. It's what Conquest is made out of. Conquest is actually both technologies put together, much like we do on the saltwater side, where you see a Spiral X blank with High Power X to make it further durable and perform better. So anyways, that's me geeking out on technology because I love it so much. All right. So, and then Marshall's saying, for the record, he loves the old Zodius. So if it was, I wouldn't be mad. Marshall, you won't be mad. Pick up a Corrado rod. There's tweaks, but there's a lot of similarity. Take the green out of your head versus the red. There is a lot of similarity. And I think the old Zodius rods were great rods. I mean, I know how much work Alex did with them. I love them. I still have them. I still use them.
No, they're great rods. Corrado rods are going to be, trust me, absolutely phenomenal. They've just got tweaks. Like I said, that chatterbait rod, to me, I'm a chatterbait guru. I own way too many jackhammers, brake blades. Thrift has a new big bladed one. I own way too many vibrating jigs. That's where technique specific though. I used to love throwing a vibrating jig. I lost way too many fish. It drove me crazy. I lost too many. That's when we started getting the medium heavy glass, and the Corrado 7.2 medium heavy glass. Like I said, I'll just go on and say it's the best vibrating jig rod that you'll ever put in your hand, hands down. And I've fished Poison Adrena. The 15 model was a really, really good one. That was my baby. And then I really liked the X Pride. It was a little too stiff for my likings personally. Then Zodius come out with their 7.2 medium heavy glass. I really liked it, but I can just go and take this new Corrado 7.2 medium heavy glass. Ain't nothing like it. So they're very close, but they're not the same. But you're going to love Corrado rods, Marshall. Absolutely love them.
There you go. From the horse's mouth. Alex, does that mean you got to change your handle to Chatterbait Kid?
I mean, I try not to tell people how much I like to throw it, but like I have a sick addiction with that thing. It's bad, like real bad.
Have you thrown the CFL yet?
I don't like to tell all my secrets, JP. You got to hold some secrets.
All right, fair enough. All right, so this one's going to get us in trouble. He's asking, will Shimano release more hard baits? Okay, obviously, World Minnow and World Diver were just released at iCast. So these are the new lures, a deep diving jerkbait basically, and a suspending 115 mil size jerkbait. The big thing, flash boost, jet boost, scale boost. 3 features we talked about. So obviously, if you do your research, you will realize Shimano in Japan does make a bunch more. I don't think Alex and I can say anything about what's happening in the future because we don't know. We don't know what product is up to.
All we can say, I think, and not get us in trouble, I don't think we're going to stop at 2.
Yeah, probably not. I would assume. I mean, if you look in Japan, Shimano has a ton of great lures. I mean, made for that JDM market. And we just saw the first 2 come across the border. And I think if these ones are successful, yeah, the odds are good we could. But I have no firsthand knowledge of whether we've got more coming. I'm optimistic. I would like to see more based on what I've seen from these 2.
I would like to see, I have ideas what I would like to see. I don't know if I'll ever get my my wishes, but that flash boost technology, once I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, wow, if you put it in this, what would that look like? I don't know if I'll ever see
Alex,
this.
That's on the Flash Boost 115 today Pro Blue. That's a 620 smallmouth. So that was today.
I hate you right now. I actually in practice, I've had the Flash Boost, the jerkbait. I've had World Minnow, World Diver for like 6 months, and I couldn't really say anything about it, obviously. But there was times I could fish behind people and catch them on a jerkbait, and they'd come be like, "Man, what was you throwing?" I was like, "I just,
re-range. It was a re-range. Sorry, yeah,
just throwing this." They're like, "Well, man, I threw that thing too." I'm like, I guess I got lucky. So, it's that flash boost technology. It's something that no one's ever seen before. Fish haven't seen before, so it's pretty legit stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hopefully titanium crayon. I hope that helps you out. Like I said, we have zero push, influence, recourse, or firsthand knowledge. So, but I think both Alex and I, after seeing what we saw with World Diver and World Minnow, are optimistic. I think it's going to be accepted really well. I'm actually flat out shocked it didn't win Best of Show, because that, if you haven't seen the Flash Boost technology, it is as unique a technology as you can ever find. I mean, it came from our saltwater side, and it is in the freshwater world, and it is, I wish I had one. Oh, I got one in front of me. Alex, you talk to the people. Here, I'm going to give you a question. I'm going to grab one.
It is something that I had it in the tank, so I got to use it in the tank at iCast, and it was phenomenal to me that when the bait, those fish could not stand it. Like, they would see other lures and they would act like they'd swim around like this. But when they saw the actual flash boost, it drove them crazy. And the awesome thing was there was people on the outside of the actual tank taking pictures of it, and they took videos of it, and you could see it doing what that thing's doing right there. You could see the actual bait in the tank making flash like it was a wounded bait fish that was sitting there like quivering.
Look, I'm not even moving it.
No, it's something that no one's ever seen it in the freshwater. So it's, to me, that's exciting, because I'm not gonna say it's the Alabama rig, but it's something that hasn't been seen. And anytime a fish hasn't seen a lure, they kind of go crazy about it. So that's what I like so much. It's something that just, I feel like I have now. I'm only probably going to have it for like 2 more months before everyone else has a chance to get it. A month before everyone else has to be able to time to catch it.
I'm using mine every chance I can get, dude. I've got them, and they're being used. I think for me, this thing, early colder temperatures when you throw jerk baits. I know Alex throws them a lot in the winter. I can't, because they don't work really well through the ice up here. But when I get on Erie in the spring, and you're doing those long pauses, and now we have an open season on Lake Ontario for trophy, just catch and release. Long pauses, I think, is where this bait is going to get super separated from everybody else, because when you pause that thing down there and it's sitting there, but that mirror is actually still flickering the way it is right now,
it's still doing something.
Yeah, it's going to draw some strikes, especially on those long pauses.
it'll just trick their senses because that, especially clear water. I mean, that's my thing with a jerkbait. In clear water, it's all about a visual thing with the bass. It's all visual. So now you can trick one's senses when it's sitting still and he thinks that's fake. But then it's emitting flash. That's when his senses get messed up and he just thinks, no, it's not fake. That's actually something alive. I'm getting it. And
yeah. I want to bring this back. I did a wintertime jerkbait show with Kevin Short on Dardanelle a few years back. And like I brought the Dow's Vito 90 SP down there, which, you know, he was explaining to me in the wintertime, it's all about that pause, head down pause in that cold water on Dardanelle seems to be a trigger. It might be the same on Guntersville for you. And I had that 90 SP, which this is a 99 mil. So very similar in size, same kind of lip. But I would like to have that flash boost on those. Like we were doing super long pauses, throwing a jerkbait on fluoro when it's water's cold, because that's kind of what I do. We could talk about that, Alex, if you want. In the summertime, today I was throwing the World Minnow on 8-pound Super 8 Slick V2 with a 14-pound fluoro leader on an 852 NRX Plus, right? And I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for monster casting distance because our water is so clear up here. And you're working the bait so fast because the water is 70 degrees. The fish are super aggressive. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about the pause at this point.
No.
But when the water gets colder, are you like me that you switch over to straight fluoro when you throw a jerkbait?
I use 8 to 10. That just depends on how deep you want to get the bait. And it's all about the pause. You want it to sit there, but you want it to sit. I want the bait to sit like this every time. I don't want, like I've got some jerkbaits that I used to throw and it would do this straight up and down. I was like, oh, that does not look natural at all. And I mean, that affects, you know, I don't think you get bites because of it. So wintertime, I want it to just kind of nose down and just sit there. And now that thing has flash boost and it's going to emit flash, I mean, it's the best of all worlds. But no, in wintertime, I want it just to, and it would not hurt my feelings if one slow sank. Like if you ever get one that does that, it's rare to ever find one. It's like a unicorn. But if you ever find one that barely slow sinks, not too much where it goes in grass or it's, you know, it's like a bottle rocket going to the bottom. But
you used lead wrap for fly fishing?
I use the old school, the tape, Stormer tape.
Yeah,
I just put a little on the hook.
Tabs and suspend dots. Yep.
Yeah, I just want one just to barely go down, but I do want it to be nose down. So that's just something when you really get into jerkbait fishing, take that to the next level. But
so this was a Kevin Short trick that he did. He was throwing a jerkbait, and what he did was he wrapped the shank of the front hook with it's a very fine wire lead tape. It's used in fly fishing for creating nymphs and sinking flies. And it just got that bait to sit because he's only weighting the front hook. It would give it that nose down finish and that super slow. When you get it just right, how many wraps you need. And temperature, for all of you who are going to play with this, temperature of the water is going to affect the buoyancy of a bait.
Yeah.
Just 40, so you know.
40 degrees and 45 to 48 is like night and day. I mean, absolutely, it will drive you crazy. So don't think you can go out there and just have one at 55
you can't wrap it once.
Yeah, if you go get tap water and try that trick, like I tried it one time, I was like, oh, I'm the man. When you put it in 41-degree water, it's like, what did I just do to my bait? I ruined it. I absolutely ruined it. So that's something to play around with. But anyone out there that has wintertime and you just get stir crazy, start getting some water, put some ice in it, get you a thermometer, you can really get haywire one day.
All right, let's keep rolling here. Jason's been sitting up here staring at us. It's like he's giving us a dirty look. Jason's asking, he said, the understanding is the glass pins the fish better on trebles better. Is that the case with those softer, more moderate rods? Is it all about not tearing trebles out, Alex? Or is it twofold?
Twofold. I want a soft tip because I want I jerk a jerkbait really, really hard. I mean, I work it really, really hard. So I actually want a softer rod just to kind of give a little forgiveness of how much I'm working the thing. And then, yes, I do. When I hit a fish, I don't want it to be so stiff, like a 6'10" medium heavy. When actually one would hit it, when I'd hit the fish, it would probably pull the hooks out immediately. And then you get a wiry smallmouth or a spot at the boat, and they go nuts. So I push my button. I'm a button pusher. So when one does it to me, I just push the button and let him go. But having a soft rod definitely going to ease the pain of pulling hooks out versus a medium heavy. So twofold. I do it for action, and I do it for not pulling the hooks out of the fish.
All right, so we're going to start ripping through some questions here because it's 50 minutes in and we got a lot of them in front of us. So, folks, a reminder, click the share button if you can. That always helps us get the word out. If you have a buddy who you think any of the nonsense we've been talking about, I shouldn't say nonsense, Alex, because there's been actually a lot of good information tonight. If you have a buddy who might benefit from learning from what we've talked about, tag them in the comments. That always will get it into their feed, and they can watch this after the fact. So, all right. Christian Kessler is asking pike stick, Conquest, NRX Plus, or Skix? Well, all very, very high end there, Christian. According to Alex, it is a Conquest 842 for pike.
On a drop shot in 35 foot.
I would say, Christian, it'll depend on the baits you're throwing. I would say if you're throwing big baits for pike, Skix is going to be your best option because it is actually rated for throwing big, heavy baits. But listen, a 904 Conquest, a 904 NRX, or an 895 NRX can handle quite a bit of meat. So you have options. If you want something that'll do, let's just say, flipping heavy cover for largemouth, but also be able to handle bigger baits for northerns, I would say go Conquest or NRX Plus. If you want something solely for throwing giant baits, take a good look at Skix. That's my 2 cents on that one. Okay, spinnerbait kid, this one's for you. Jim from our YouTube channel, what rod do you use for spinnerbaits?
Easy. 7.2 medium heavy X Pride. I've went through all of them. With a spinnerbait, I want a soft tip. So I want one with a soft tip for roll casting, going to docks, laydowns. But if I break it out on Guntersville and I want to make long bomb casts, 7.2, it's the best of all the worlds. And the X Pride is a little softer of a rod compared to Zodius. So it gives me that forgiveness when you're reeling it on a laydown or on the top of a tree and you see him come get it. You don't jerk it away from him too quick. It's just a little bit more forgiving. So 7.2 medium heavy X Pride, that's the best spinnerbait rod I've ever messed with.
And that's a fast action as well, is it not, Alex?
It's a fast action, but it's not as fast as Zodius. So that's one rod that I love X Pride in for, is I throw a spinnerbait on X Pride.
All right, and for me, it's an IMX Pro spinnerbait rod. So yeah, that 7 foot kind of just ticks the button for me. I used to throw a 7.2 as well. So anything medium, heavy, fast action is probably going to put you kind of where you want to be, Jim, when you're looking for a spinnerbait rod. Gear ratio of reel for spinnerbaits and line to help Jim out for the complete package, Alex.
I use the 6-speed. I throw it on. I'm a weirdo. I throw it on 15 pound. I know a lot of people say, you can throw it on 17 and 20 and it doesn't affect it. I feel like I fish grass lakes, so I'm fishing a lot of times. I'm trying to get the bait down deeper. So I fish it 6 foot down. When you up the line size, you're making the bait run shallower. That's just line size. That's just what it does. So I throw it on 15 pound. I don't think you can break 15 pound fluoro. I know you throw Sunline, I throw P-line, but 15 pounds pretty strong stuff. So that's kind of to each his own. Everyone has their personal preference, but gear ratio 6 speed. That's, you don't want it going too fast. I don't want to. I'm not a burner on a spinnerbait, not just where I'm from.
All right. So Mike is asking, started this summer throwing more crankbaits, diving 3 to 6. So probably like that square bill or in that smaller range. What was that? The Diggle 2+ would probably be in that range, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So been losing a lot of fish and only hooking up on the back hook.
This is
an easy one, Alex. You got this.
Simple. Go glass. I had the same problems, and that's why we designed Zodius. I actually helped design every Zodius glass rod there was. I have all the prototypes still, and there's probably 30 of them that I have. We had like 5 different varieties from each model, but just go glass. 7 foot medium, the glass rod is what you'll want to probably start with for what I'm seeing, 3 to 6 foot. If you go vibrating jigs or rattle traps or a big square bill, like a monster square bill, that's when I would go to the 7.2 medium heavy. Or if you get like 10 or 12 foot. But from what you're saying, 3 to 6, get to 7 foot medium glass. And I throw mono. That's one thing I do. That's mostly that's kind of a done art. But I feel like with mono, I lose less fish. Mono is not as sensitive, so you're actually going to have a delayed reaction with mono versus fluorocarbon. So what that's going to do is it's going to let the fish get the bait better. So to me, it's just a delay. I'm not going to jerk as hard as I'm not going to feel it's probably a half-second delay or a quarter-second delay. So I throw 10-pound mono on a 7-foot medium glass rod, Zodius rod. On reels, I use a 6-speed. I like a Metanium. I just feel like Metanium gives me the best casting ability for small baits. But yeah, glass rod, mono, I don't think you can go wrong. You'll catch a lot more fish. You'll lose a lot less fish. You'll hook more fish, and they'll have the bait sideways. They'll have it deep. Sometimes you might want to change colors, but I think it's more rod reel combo than it is color a lot of time for the way fish get the bait.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add, because Alex is a very, very seasoned crankbait thrower, is that sometimes, Mike, I find people throw braid with cranks, and it's a big no-no. If you're rear hooking a lot, like back hook and losing, the no stretch of braid is a no-no, and this is why Alex uses mono, and that's why I use a fluoro that is made for cranking. It actually has more stretch in it. You want that stretch. Stretch is your friend. It allows the fish to get better bite on the bait, more hooks in their mouth, and you lose less fish. So hopefully that helps you out a bit there. Our good friend Bobo, who I fished with today, he's asking, what's your frog setup, Alex?
I use several. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm going to walk a frog in open water, I use a 7.2 heavy Zodius rod. I feel like that rod right there, I can just walk it better in open water. I'm usually roll casting it so I can more short quarters casting. Mat fishing, 7.6 extra heavy Zodius. I'm not worried. I want distance and I want power. That's all I want. Though both of them on I actually use a Corrado XG on both of those. Open water frog, I use 50-pound Max Quattro. So it's the diameter of 40-pound Power Pro, but it's the strength of 50. I feel like I can just walk it easier. And then on the mat rod, so on my 7.6 extra heavy Zodius, I use 65 original Power Pro. That's the best setup there is. You can winch one out of probably the gnarliest stuff known to man. So 7.6 extra heavy, 7.2 heavy, 50-pound Max Quattro, and 65-pound regular. Put it on Corrado XG, and you're in frog heaven.
All right. So I'm just going to pop this up quickly. Dan, you are not stealing thunder from us. Keep answering. Dan's giving some great advice to Ron regarding jigging. If you want a guy who's a gearhead, Dan Thorburn's the man. He's got gear figured out.
I know this much. Dan knows this much.
Yeah. So Dan, thank you very much for taking some time. I'm glad you're joining us, and I'm glad you're helping out Ron. So, all right. So where are we here? Here we go. Daniel's asking from our Facebook watchers, what spinning reel or bait caster would you recommend for salmon steelhead here in Washington? Oh, I think I have to take this one here for you, bud. Yes. Handle fish swimming up a river up to 20 plus pounds. Dude, you're going to probably want to look at either the E6XG Loomis lineup of spinning and casting options they have, depending on the technique you're using. I mean, you could be doing back bounce, you could be drifting floats, you could be doing center pin. Anyways, they have a whole bunch there. You want to look inside there. And depending on your price range, you can move up from E6X into the IMX series. I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to salmon and steelhead. So figure out what your technique is you're going to be doing for them. Are you bottom bouncing? Are you float fishing? Are you back bouncing? Are you trolling? Depends what you're doing. If you're flossing, which some guys do in some parts of the river, and then look at what's available, because we do have both bait casting and spinning on our G Loomis side. So E6X, IMX should have you covered. So hopefully that helps you out, Daniel. All right. Okay, John A. from our YouTube channel. Son and I are having success using Shimano Slim Swimmer 2.5 to 5 gram spoons. Hard to find in the U.S. for. Ooh, I like this. I like finding out about new stuff. Shimano Slim Swimmer. I'm going to do some research here. 2.5 to 5 grams. So those are light, Alex.
Yeah, so 28 grams in an ounce.
14 and a half, 7 and a quarter. 7 and a quarter.
1/5 of an ounce, virtually.
Yeah, well, 7 ounces in a 1/4 ounce. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, while you talk and think about this.
So, and we're working these as far as if they're casting and reeling, I would have to probably say I would go with the 611 medium plus Poison Adrena. Because
so let's show you what it is, Alex, so you can see. He's throwing spoons.
Is it like a Castmaster kind of spoon?
Kind of deal, yeah. It is exactly that. So there it is there. So it's almost like a crocodile spoon kind of thing.
I'd go spin rod. If I had to do that, I'd probably go spin rod.
If you want casting distance, you're 100% right. Yeah.
Yep. I would go spin rod. I would go 8-pound Power Pro V2 to 8-pound fluoro. And why change it up? 842 Conquest again. That's going to it's going to dominate the whole market for me.
So, John, a medium power 7-foot fast action rod is going to help you out. Paired up with a 2500 size spinning reel with a Super 8 Slick V2, 8-pound. Yeah, I agree with Alex.
You'll be able to with that setup. With that setup, you could jig it with braid. If you're jigging deep water, I used to trout fish, so that's why I said, is it like a Castmaster? Because that was what I did. And I wish in my earlier days of trout fishing I had braid, because like jigging it, I was ice fishing. That's when I would jig it, and braid would have made that so much nicer. But yeah, that's what I would do. 7-foot medium spinning rod, that'd be perfect.
Look at that, Alex.
And they actually look good. Like I wish I knew about this 20 years ago. That'd make my life easy.
Yeah, there you go. Shimano Slim Swimmer. John, thank you. We like learning new stuff while we're doing this. This is even better. So hopefully that helps you out, John. Here's one that just came out. You had your chance to see these. I had my chance to shoot them because I do all the studio work. Zodius 5-piece pack rods coming to North America. So let's start with the 5-piece, and then we'll talk about the flash boost. So this is Japan USA Tackle Addict 101 on our YouTube channel. Zodius 5-piece, from my impressions, is the real deal. It is a nice rod for a 5-piece. Did you pick one up there, Alex?
I did not, and I'm not going to try to sugarcoat this or act like something. I'm a bass guy. I used to use a 2-piece rod, and when I figured out they actually had a 1-piece spin rod instead of 2-piece, I was done with those. So I don't really know anything about the travel rod. I'm not even going to try to act like I do.
Okay, well, I can fill this one in because I've been running. I travel a lot for my show, and I go to a lot of different countries, and I like having rods that I can carry onto the plane. So I have a G Loomis Escape rod that is a 4-piece, both spinning and casting, that I've caught everything from permit to cobia on, and it does a great job. And the new Zodius, although I would not take them for bigger fish in saltwater, I think if you're doing inshore speckled sea trout, redfish, snook, stuff like that, they would fit in perfectly, or anything freshwater. They feel great. They're crisp. They're not overly tip heavy, which tends to happen when you build multiple piece rods because you're adding these ferrules in between every piece. So you're adding layered fiberglass and resin. So you get heavier and heavier as you draw them closer to the tip. So they are coming to North America. They were released at ICAST. So yes. And then Flash Boost, we talked a little bit about earlier. Is it the real deal? You tell me. Is this thing moving while I'm holding it steady?
Yeah, no. Only thing I can say is I saw it in a tank, and it was unreal, the reaction. I actually had a guy come up to me and said, I'm going to send you this video. Every fish in the tank hit the thing. And that's all I need to know. I mean, I can't argue with results.
All right. So let's keep moving on here. Okay, so Jason's asking, he's a huge chatterbait fan, much like you, Alex. Saying you're losing less fish on the Zodius rod. So you're saying the Corrado rod is the better for the chatterbait.
I used to use the 15 Poison Adrena, and then I went to the 7.2 medium heavy glass Zodius rod. Now I will be going to the 7.2 medium heavy Corrado rod. main thing, it's glass. That's where you lose less fish. The glass rods just, I used to regular 7.2 medium heavy and would lose 50%, 60%. Every time they jump, they'd come off. Glass, you lose a lot less fish. That new Corrado rod, I used it at the Potomac, and I probably caught in practice and the tournament 100, maybe 120 fish in 5 days, and never lost one. I mean, I don't know what they've done. Whoever I need to thank you and probably take you to dinner and give you a hug and all sorts of stuff. But they designed the finest chatterbait rod I've ever seen.
All right. So Mike is asking, he's got a couple of JDM 20 Metaniums. I love these guys, like hardcore to the core. I'd like a recommendation for finding a longer handle that's compatible. Dan, paging Dan, Dr. Dan. Dan, if you're out there, I don't know which handle, if our current North American version Metanium handle would work, because I know the XGs typically have wider handles than the regular size reels, right, Alex? On all of our XGs, we usually put a bigger handle.
Yeah, but I think now that's a standard feature across the board, the power handle. So
power handles are all the way.
Yeah, this is over my head as far as that stuff. Dan, where are you? Please, hurry, please.
Yeah. So, Mike, I'm going to hope Dan jumps you on the comments here and can help you out. I'm looking it up while we're talking because Metanium 20 seems like a very, very different reel than anything we've seen here. So, yeah, Dan, this is all you, bud. So, Mike, look out for Dan's comments in the comment section. Here's Christian is saying, instead of fly tape, try Loon deep soft weights. I guess this is for weighting our jerk baits.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that option. And he's also saying, this is the guy that asked about the pike rod Conquest versus NRX Plus. He was looking at the 904. 904 MBR is a phenomenal blank. I really like the 904. What I noticed, and I was a big JWR, I still am a big JWR rod guy on the Loomis side because I like the parabolic bend of a jig and worm rod. But 904 is like, they almost remind me of an FPR rod. Very soft tip, but they shut off at the third guide or fourth guide. And then you get into like, it's pure meat, lots of backbone. Yeah. And I like that for certain applications. Whenever I flip fluoro, today I got a 4-pound largie on a dock, skipping cover craws up under a dock with 20-pound fluoro on the 904 NRX Plus. And it was just like, I locked into him and just dragged him out of the dock. So not a bad choice. 904 is a good one. All right. Here we go here. Will is asking, what's the best use for the 7.3 MH Adrena?
Okay, 7.3 MH Adrena is going to be, Poison Adrena are a little softer rods than Zodius. It's more like an X-Pride. So I've thrown a spinnerbait on it. I actually liked to throw, I went up north and was throwing a Kitech style, a rhythm wave on it. I was throwing a 1/4 ounce head. And you can actually throw it pretty decent. I actually picked up a 3/8 head too and fished out deeper with it. That worked really well. I throw a weightless, like a Cinco style bait, or you throw a fluke on it. If you're tall enough, it's the perfect action for a walking bait, like a big spook or something. That's if you're tall enough. If not, it is going to hit the water, so that'd be a bad idea. But that rod's a pretty good all-around rod for a lot of different things. I use, like I said, I use a fluke spinnerbait, like a Kitech rhythm wave rod, a Cinco. I use it. That's what I use it most for. I pitch around and cast around a weightless Cinco. So that's my mainstay for it. But it has a lot of uses. It's a very, very versatile all-around rod.
All right, so we're going to keep pounding here. 1 hour, 9 minutes. Alex, you okay if we try to power through these questions here?
Let her rip.
Let her rip. All right, folks, we're going to try to get through this. So stick with us here. Obviously, let me do this recap thing. We are at Shimano School. Again, my name is JP DeRose. We're here with Alex Davis, MLF Big 5 touring pro who just made the championship via the most least likely place he would ever make it, the St. Lawrence River, fishing brownfish. He is a Guntersville guide and has figured out the brownins. So if you have questions, we are answering them. If you haven't seen this from the beginning, it will live on both our Facebook and YouTube channels. So if you guys can click the share button, that helps us get the word out. That keeps me working. It keeps guys like Alex working, and we get to keep giving you guys information. The whole reason we do these things is to help the anglers and users of our product and people who just enjoy fishing, help them get a better experience out of it. So tonight we're talking gear. If you have setup questions, now's your chance. All right, so we just finished the 7.3 Poison Adrena. Alex, Hunter Bull from our YouTube channel. How's the balance on the 7.3 X Pride Heavy? And I love this rod. So he's been looking at that for a frog and flipping rod.
This is where I'm torn because it is a very good rod. I like the 7.6 extra heavy Zodius for a frog. That we actually designed the rod just for throwing a frog. So to me, that's where I go for frogging and flipping. I'm a parabolic guy and I like 7.5 or longer. But I am 6'1". I have long arms. It's just easy for me. So I use I'm actually using I got my hands on one so far, 7.8 extra heavy karate rod, and that's my punching rod. I used to use I believe it's a 904 FPR E6X. That was my rod of choice.
Oh, wow.
Now I use the karate rod. So I don't use the 7.3 heavy. I'm not saying it's bad. It would be a good all-around, all-in-one rod for braid. I personally this is where the technique specific gets. I think I want a softer rod for flipping, and I want a really stiff rod for throwing a frog. So to me, I don't do both on the same rod. I do it on different rods. If you're just trying to get an all-around so you can do it without having to buy two rods, that's a good one for all-around. I don't think it's the best for either one, but it would be good for both. You can get by. But I like the 7.6 extra heavy Zodius rod. That thing's a meat stick. We've done videos with it. We've done vlogs with it, and it's amazing what you can do with that rod, like what you can get a bass out of. So that's what I use for a frog.
Yeah, I agree. And Alex has said it a few times tonight. What you have to realize that X Pride Blank is a little softer. XH is where you want to be, especially for frogging and flipping. That extra heavy is good. There's a 7.3 XH as well, isn't there, Alex? I think because that's what I think I have.
I don't know with that. I lock in on the Zodius with the frog, so if it ain't broke, I don't try to fix it. That's my theory on that.
Yeah, I think there's an XH because I'm pretty sure that's what I use for a lot of stuff. Yeah, there is. There's an extra heavy 7.3. So you're on the right, Hunter. If you want a 7.3 and that's the length you're comfortable with, great. Instead of heavy, go extra heavy. You won't regret it. It's parabolic. Even the extra heavy, I use it for flipping Texas rig tubes and stuff like that in milfoil, and I've used it for skipping jigs under docks. It's not extra heavy. It's really, in my opinion, it's that heavy.
Yeah, if you're looking at like a GLX 5 power, which is extra heavy,
that's extra heavy.
We're not talking the same rod. So it's actually like a 4 power in GLX is the X Pride extra heavy.
Almost, so yeah. I think the heavy X Pride is a lot like a medium heavy Loomis.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So Hunter, hopefully that helps you out. I said out like a Canadian. Best Senko setup.
7.3 medium heavy Poison Adrena. I throw it on a Metanium XG just solely based on I can pick up line really, really fast. If I'm just pitching around or making long casts, I can get it in. I throw 15-pound fluoro. That just seems like it helps cast. It helps get the bait. It'll sink, I think, right at a foot a second with 15-pound. If you go up to 20-pound or 17-pound, you're going to hurt your sink rate. So 15-pound fluoro. I throw P-Line Tactical. It's a really limp line. I know JP throws Sunline, and I've used it before. It's really, really limp. Not a lot of memory, so it doesn't coil. 7.3 medium heavy Poison Adrena. XG Metanium. It's pretty sweet.
Yep, that's a perfect bait casting setup. If you're from the North Country and you're using it for the brown fish, I would suggest switching to spinning. If you're throwing 4-inch Senkos, you can not believe how far you can throw a 4-inch Senko on 8-pound Power Pro Super 8 slick with a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader if you're wacky rigging it. And I use a 7'1" medium power fast action rod. So 852 for me, or, you know, if it's a Corrado rod, Zodius rod, X Pride rod, just, I think the bait casting setup for heavier cover is what I use with straight fluoro. I like that. And then in super clear water, when you need to bomb it away from the boat, I go spinning with braid, and it works really well as well. All right. This is Hunter. This is a very, very, yeah, it's a legitimate comment here that multi-piece rods are better because the ferrules, how far ferruling has come. I'll tell you, the ferrule. So a ferrule is where the two pieces of the rod meet. For those who don't know, nobody ever did a ferrule as well as Loomis. Loomis, the bubble ferrule in Loomis is the best in the industry for a reason. And the problem with ferrules is that it puts a flat spot in a blank for most manufacturers. And Loomis kind of figured out a way how to do that. If you ever see, all their fly rods are 4-piece. But if you've ever seen a Loomis fly rod load and unload or fight a fish, you'll notice the taper is perfectly round. So that's the big thing. Hunter, you're right. Ferrules have come a very long way. So Dan is digging on that Metanium MGL. So yeah, 95 millimeters on the handle. I looked online as well, Dan. So for Mike, who's asking the question, you can change the 20 size or the model year 20 for the Metanium you have from Japan. You can interchange handles. You just gonna have to call Shimano service and order a handle from the North American versions, and you'll get that wider handle. So you're covered there. And that's what Dan said. The longest handle I would suggest for the Metanium. There you go.
He's so much smarter than we are on that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even bother with Dan. I was just like, Dan, you got it. I love it. All these guys are so into this stuff. Like, they're digging up the difference, like, of everything. And I think that's the greatest thing about Shimano fans. Are Shimano fans. Like, when you're a hardcore Shimano user, you are all over this stuff. Okay, so there you go. Hunter saying the 7.3XH is what he meant.
Well, there you go, Hunter. You had her figured out. You just threw a little kink in our plans, but now you got her.
Okay, Bantam MGL, Corrado 150 MGL. Only difference is that one has core solid and one doesn't. Pretty much.
The frame is different. I mean, if you're talking technology, yes, but if you're putting it in your hand, completely. I don't have one right here. They're out there, but no,
It's the palming side plate on the 150 MGL that will blow your mind because they reduced the size of the spool. It's a 32 mil spool, so your palming side on the Corrado 150 MGL is significantly smaller than that of a Bantam MGL.
Yeah, and I think they actually lessened up 150 Corrado 1.1 ounces against the 200 Corrado. So if you're trying to compare the actual weight from Bantam, because Bantam is a heavier reel, it's probably like 2.5 ounces different, somewhere in that ballpark, 2.3. So
Bantam's a workhorse. It's a workhorse of a reel.
It's hard to compare Bantam MGL and new Corrado 150 MGL. It's like comparing apples to oranges.
Wait. Our guru has chimed in here. Bantam is all aluminum side plate and frame. Corrado has aluminum frame, composite side plates. So that's the big thing. So the core solid reel on Bantam has actually, I think it's a cold forged. Dan can correct me, but I think it's a cold forged twist in side plate piece. And yes, it's all aluminum. So the weight difference and your palming side is going to be smaller on the 150 MGL.
Yeah, that's hard. It's like I said, I was comparing apples to oranges there. That was a tricky one.
Yeah. And that's where we got Dan.
Yeah.
Dan's the man. All right. So we've caught up on everything. Folks, if you have a couple more questions, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to ask away. There's Dan. Not cold forged, but yes, all aluminum on Bantam. There you have it. And I love the Bantam. I think for me, the Bantam is if I'm throwing something that grinds and digs, big deep cranks, big swim baits, stuff like that, Bantam is it's a really hard reel to beat because it is super solid. Like, I mean, it is,
It's
That reel is tough.
to me, it is the workhorse in the family. To me, Metanium is Metanium is like the Cadillac Escalade, and Bantam is like your F-250 Super Duty. Both great vehicles, but one's one and one's the other. And they both have their place. They both have their time, but both great reels. That Bantam is like I put it on the 7.7 Heavy X Pride and just pretty much tell ledge fish, take one to the mouth, because here you go.
All right. Alex, best pound test for chatterbaits.
15. I am a 15-pound guy. I know a lot of people will say I'm crazy, but the last time I broke a fish off, knock on wood, it might happen next week at lacrosse, but it's been like 3 years since I broke 15 pound. That wasn't completely my fault because it wrapped around a dock 8 times and I didn't even check it. But 15 pound, I just feel like the lighter the line, it does more things to the bait. That's why I like lighter line. It gets the most out of a bait. You put 25 on it, and I think it just kills the bait. Some people say I'm crazy, but I fish on guide trips a lot, and I have a lot of people, they sometimes bring their own thing because they want to, and they throw 20 pound on stuff, and I'm throwing 15, and I'm out catching them. And I tell people, we have the same bait, the same rod, same reel. We don't have the same line. That's the difference. And I've just seen it work. 15 pounds the best line there is.
I'm laughing. Dan, I'm not answering your question. There is no way in hell I'm answering that. All right. 7.4 Poison Adrena. So Everett wants to know about its strengths. Where does this rod really fit into the – so the 7.4 heavy?
To me, it's a jig and worm rod. That's when I use it. 7.4, as far as length goes, you're going to be able to pick up more line. So especially like a Guntersville TVA, we throw a big worm on a lightweight in grass, long cast. Sometimes you might bomb it 35 yards, hits the water, your line ticks, you got one. You want to be able to set the hook and drive that hook home on a long cast. And then football head jigs, throwing out on ledges, you're making long casts. You want to be able to take the line up really, really fast. So to me, 7.4 Poison Adrena, that's all going to be jig and worm. That's where it's in its wheelhouse to me.
All right. And Hunter's just saying 16-pound sniper for jackhammers, so he's right along there. I'm a little more of a brute savage. I throw 18-pound FC sniper. But, for me, we're throwing a little bit heavier probably baits because I throw a lot of half-ounce and three-quarter-ounce chatterbaits up here just because I throw them a lot for smallmouth, which a lot of people don't do, which I'm shocked at because they're a really good bait when the smallmouth are on that feed. I think I'd rather hook them on that than a spinnerbait, which they can snap in half sometimes, right? Like we've all had it happen. We've all had it with spinnerbaits. I mean, there's nothing like a freight train hitting a spinnerbait. Smallmouth, when they hit a spinnerbait, it's usually within the first 2 cranks of the handle. But when they eat a chatterbait, and I have a 4-aught flipping hook in mind, and I drive that home on 18-pound, I don't give him a choice of where he's going.
No.
I get his head to the surface and drag him.
The first 3 that I caught at the St. Lawrence last week in practice was on a half-ounce jackhammer. When you hit it, he comes straight out of the water like a bottle rocket. But I don't feel like I'm going to lose him on that like a spinnerbait, or he's going to break it. So, that's that. If you've never caught a smallmouth on a jackhammer, you are missing out on life. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, they do hit it like they hate it. A bantam for frogging.
Okay, open water frogging where you're not trying to make these super, super long casts. I throw 50-pound max quattro, which is like 40-pound test. So bantam, you can definitely put a lot of line on 40-pound on that. Frogging and mats, I'm making really, really long casts on 65-pound braid. So I want a 200 size spool just because if you try to put 65-pound on bantam and cast it, I can cast it all the way to the bottom of the spool and want to get more. I can actually throw 65-pound on a 200 all the way to the end of the spool. It's a really long cast with wind behind it, but you can. So I use Karadu for mats, and you can use bantam or a 150 size on open water frogging. That's just whatever. I throw 150 Karadu on the open water frogging.
Well, I think you said the magic word there, and I agree, is the max quattro.
Yeah.
I throw 65-pound max, which is diameter of like 50 pound.
Yep.
Right. So, and I can get away with a 150 Corrado DC with the 50 pound. If you're using 65-pound max or 50-pound V2 or regular Power Pro.
Yep.
Right. So that's the big thing. So if you're going to do that, just be cognizant of the fact that if you're throwing the heavier pound braids, the 150 may not be enough.
No, if you're throwing 65 or 80, you're going to have to go to a 200 size spool. You just have to for line capacity. Not the reel is bad. It's just the line capacity is not going to work. Before you go, can you speak about the juice house? There's a lot of tricks you can do with it. It's a lot of trailer tricks. Skirt choices. I make my own skirts. I don't ever throw.
Wait, you're paying all that money for a jackhammer and you're making your own skirts for it?
I want the way that thing hits. I've heard it in a pool. So a jackhammer in a pool sounds crazy compared to other ones. And it's hook, it's keeper, but I do make my own skirts and I tie them on there. The skirt, the actual trailer, I use a few different trailers. Boot tail's a really good one. And then also I throw a straight tail, like a Jerky J. Hog Farmer makes one that's, I think, called like a spunk shed. It's just a straight tail. It looks like a pin on the back of it. That's something that until you've seen in a pool, you don't realize how dangerous that looks. So get you new skirts. I'm not saying their skirts are bad, but there's a lot of color choices out there that they don't have. And look at a straight tail trailer. Look at a Jerky J or a spunk shed. It'll open your mind to a lot of new things.
All right, so I just asked Jason Allen which Cronarch, but he's saying he's using a Cronarch and scared it ain't powerful enough for frogging.
If that thing ain't powerful enough, I want to go where you're fishing because you got biggins, like real biggins. That thing, I could drag in on a VW Bug with that reel. It's powerful enough.
There you have it, Jason. I mean, and really, there's only two Cronarchs available, right? There's the Cronarch, and then there's the Cronarch G. There's only the two on the market right now. We have the one made for saltwater with a drainage port and some other water treatment things, but really the Cronarch is the Cronarch.
Yeah, if that thing's not powerful enough, call me. I want to come where you're going, buddy.
All right, there you have it. All right, folks. So I think we're going to wrap things up. We actually got through all the questions, Alex. Probably the best interaction we have seen on one of our Shimano schools. Of course, Alex Davis, our superstar from our Shimano field staff. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This was yet another episode of Shimano School. If you haven't seen, there you go. Dan Thorburn. G has a different material for the spool as well. So thank you for joining us for another Shimano School. This is going to live on both our YouTube channel, Shimano North America YouTube channel, Shimano North America Facebook channel. You can watch this afterwards. You can send your buddies here. You can tag someone. But we really appreciate you all being here. We will be back in 2 weeks. So just so everybody knows, we go back and forth. Saltwater, freshwater. This week was freshwater. Next 2 weeks. So not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after. I believe I'm going to be talking to Mo Newman from Journey South Outfitters, who I am dying to go down and see because they're out of Louisiana, New Orleans area, Venice area, and they are on big everything down there. So, Alex, I think you need to come with me when I go.
That sounds horrible to go catch big everything. Horrible.
Yeah, doesn't that sound awful?
Yes.
So, folks, glad we could help a bunch of you out tonight. Join us every 2 weeks. Share the word. Help us get it out there. And we will see you guys in a couple of weeks. I hope your fishing stays good and your weather keeps you on the lakes. And we'll talk to you soon. Alex, thanks, bud. I really appreciate your time.